long, long time ago, everyone on Earth spoke the same language. It didn't matter if you lived in a valley, at the top of a hill, or by a river. Everyone could understand each other perfectly. No confusion, no strange words, no misunderstandings. In a large valley called Sinai, families traveled together, building their homes close to one another. The sound of children running between tents echoed as adults chatted and worked. It was a world where a single word could reach everyone's heart. Every day, men and women gathered to plan how to improve their lives. They cooked together, shared stories around the warmth of the fire, and helped with the work in the fields. With strong hands, they molded clay and straw bricks, drying them in the sun to build sturdy houses. Children invented songs and mimicked the adults' work, dreaming of the day they too would be great builders. There were no borders or barriers, and everyone felt like part of one big human family. It was a time of great unity and cooperation, where the people felt their connection with each other and with the land. They worked side by side, never seeing themselves as separate from one another, all contributing to a shared purpose. Each person's contribution mattered, and no task was too small for any of them. They were all vital parts of the great machine of life, bound together by love and common dreams. The shared effort made them feel powerful, as if they could overcome anything together. But over time, this unity gave birth to ambitious dreams. People no longer wanted just to live together and help each other. They wanted to leave their mark on history, to build something so impressive that no one could forget it. Their conversations began to revolve around a grand dream, to raise a huge city with a tower that reached the sky. And so, amid laughter and plans, a project was born that would change the course of humanity. One day, the village leaders gathered everyone in the central square and said, "Let's build a tower that touches the sky. That way, we'll be famous, and we won't scatter across the earth." Their voices rang with pride and enthusiasm. The crowd applauded, cheering for the idea, convinced it would be the greatest feat ever seen. The sun shone brightly over the valley, seeming to give light to that dream. But no one thought to ask God if this plan was good. People began working early each day, some making bricks, others bringing water, and others designing the tower's shape. Day by day, the structure grew higher and higher. Children watched in awe as the shadow of the tower stretched across the valley. But deep inside, the people's hearts no longer sought to honor God. They wanted to make a name for themselves. They wanted to show that they could reach the sky with their own strength. As they celebrated each new floor of the tower, God watched from above. He saw that the unity he had given to humanity was being used to fuel pride and self-sufficiency. Instead of trusting his guidance, people relied solely on their own power. Then, the Lord decided to intervene before their pride led them down an irreversible path. One morning, as the workers greeted each other to begin their tasks, something strange happened. One man said, "Pass me a brick," but the other looked confused because he didn't understand the words. Another asked for water, but his companion thought he was asking for stones. The sound of hammers and footsteps was replaced by a bewildering murmur of unfamiliar voices. No one could communicate clearly. Soon, confusion turned to frustration. The workers argued, but they no longer knew exactly why. Instructions got lost in unfamiliar words and strange gestures. Some tried to imitate sounds, others laughed nervously, while others became angry. Work came to a halt because no one could coordinate. What was once a united group was now a puzzle of languages and sounds. Over time, families began to seek out those they could understand. Those who spoke the same language gathered together and decided to move to other places. Slowly, the great village in the valley broke apart, scattering across the earth. The tower was abandoned, incomplete, as a reminder of what happens when people seek their own glory instead of following God's plans. The valley, once filled with a single language, became a land of empty paths and unfinished walls. The wind whistled through abandoned scaffolds, and the great tower, rising proudly toward the sky, lay like a giant, half awake. The children who once played around it were now far away, learning new customs and words. People looked back and remembered the days when everyone understood each other. But they also saw how that understanding had been used to fuel pride. Some realized that God had acted out of love to protect them from a greater mistake. He knew that a heart full of arrogance could lead humanity to forget Him entirely. The place was named Babel, which means confusion, because that's where the Lord confused the language of the whole earth. What began as a dream of greatness ended up being an eternal lesson on humility and dependence on God. From that day, nations began to form in different parts of the world. Each group spoke a different language and developed their own way of life. Though separated by language, they all carried in their memory the story of Babel and the warning it represented. The tower lay in ruins, but served as a silent reminder for future generations. Human plans are meaningless if they're made for personal glory instead of God. Families taught their children that true greatness doesn't lie in building impressive things, but in living according to God's will. Over time, some nations returned to God, remembering that He gave them the ability to speak, work, and dream. And they understood that though their languages were different, love and obedience to God could unite their hearts in a way far more powerful than any tower. The story of the Tower of Babel teaches us that unity is a gift from God, but it must be used for good and to follow His plans, not to feed our pride. When people try to do everything on their own, they end up confused and separated. Children can learn that it's okay to have big dreams, but they should always seek God's guidance before acting. He knows what's best and wants us to use our talents to help, serve, and love, not to make ourselves more important than others. True success lies in humility, in understanding that we are all part of something much greater than ourselves, a divine plan far beyond our comprehension.